What's up, my soul expansion community? Andrew here with another point. And so, this is my second video in a series that I'm talking about finding your true self. And before I start off with this video, I want to refer you back to the introduction video where I talk about what this series is going to be about. And I kind of explain how I'm not going to be sugarcoating anything and I'm not going to be like breaking down to the basics of everything. I'm just going to be talking about things from my experience level, from my understanding level, and so a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about is going to require a lot of implied knowledge, and it's going to sound like I'm crazy, and it's not going to make any sense if you don't know what I'm talking about. So you need to check out that introduction video, and maybe just, you don't even want to be watching this series because it's not going to make sense to you and it's going to sound like I'm crazy, and maybe you should just, focus on the other series, other playlists. But yeah, what this series is about is, again, me helping you find your true self. Like that's what the title of this series is, because that's what it really is. And it's really about just like the tips that I have to see significant, improvement, because we look a lot of our times, our whole lives, to just find, like what the truth is, and we look a lot of the times to find like the most accurate spiritual teaching and the best possible book we could read. But sometimes those books are just like hour-long chapters, and then there's 12 chapters, and you have to, read every single chapter for it to all come together and make sense. But once you finish that whole entire book, just so long as you were listening to each and every single sentence, then you're going to get something out of it. And so, I want to just kind of say like the tips and tricks that I use on an everyday basis to increase the presence that I have, and to stay in the moment and not get so sidetracked and lost. And I took like a really, really long route to get to where I'm at, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of people, once they came into contact with this source energy, they were just like, all right, this is the way to go. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to drop everything and I'm going to follow this path. Not me so much. I was like really stubborn, I was like, I know God loves me. I know that he created me for my purpose, and because I feel like it's better to do this, I feel like there's a reason God gave me that want. He gave me that desire so that I would chase it, so that I wouldn't just, forget about all of it and then just follow his divine path, which is kind of where I'm at finally, is where I'm just trying to drop everything else and follow that divine path. But to get to this point, I took the most roundabout way I can even think possible. And so, in order to do that, I had to have absolute confidence and faith that God would eventually guide me back to him, because it was basically like, if somebody hands you a ticket to get on a plane, and you just, don't take the ticket. You're just like, say your dream job and your girlfriend is waiting on the other side of that plane, and you're just like, I'll get there eventually. I know that that's something that's waiting for me later, but I don't want to get on that plane right now. That's pretty much exactly what I did, And so I kept crashing into absolutely terrible situations, a bunch of negative people, all kinds of slavery templates and all kinds of things that were just extremely draining and make me feel like crap. And so much so to the point that I forgot where I was headed. I forgot, that I wanted to follow this path deep down inside. But I always knew, at least on some subconscious level, that that is what I wanted to do. And so the reason for me saying this is that due to how roundabout of a path I took, I learned some really, really, really basic ways to explain how to, again, increase your presence, how to follow that path that you want to follow, and, just like basically little ways to explain it to a toddler, where you don't need to know everything. You don't need to have, like I was saying just a second ago, you don't need all kinds of implied knowledge to know what I'm talking about. I mean, first and foremost, you need to believe what I'm talking about. You need to give me your attention. You need to actually listen to what I have to say. And if you do that, then it's going to make sense to you, basically, is what I'm saying. Like, it's not, the methods that I learned don't necessarily take, 10 hours of research like a book would. It's just kind of like simple. It's like when you hear it, oh, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And so, examples of that would just be like, looking at negative space. And you say, what's negative space? It's the space in between the actual components. So, you have like, probably in front of you, you have a computer or a phone, but behind that main object, you have the whole background. All right, and in the whole background, there's a whole bunch of other objects, but the negative space is what is in between those objects and makes up the actual environment you're in. Because just for a second, imagine taking those negative spaces out, have them disappear. And then all you have is your phone, maybe your computer. You might have your bed or a desk or a keyboard. But, you realize that, wow, it's like every single even little detail is necessary, because you can't just take out your floor and you can't just take out your wall, because if you do those things, then, there's something behind those, and you can't really see through that. But like, if you take those things out, then it kind of opens up the space. It's like, I don't really know how to explain it, alright, but that was just like my attempt at giving you an example of, one of those tips and tricks, which apparently isn't something that is particularly for this video, because it's like, I have literally at least a dozen things you can do in order to increase your presence and to make it easier to, have proof. I guess that's what it really is. It's like, well, I guess that makes sense. Alright, so it's just like, there's kind of two realities. Sorry to, put that whole first part in there and then just jump to this, but they correlate a little bit later, alright? So there's kind of like two realities. There's the reality that we grew up in, where you have to get a job and you have, family, and that family is your blood, and because they're your blood, you have to respect them and all kinds of things like that, and, just like the general reality. Alright. And then on top of that, there's another reality, and that other reality is divine, and that other reality is very, very exotic, because it takes a lot of imagination, because it's outside of this reality. So it's like, when you have, your whole room in front of you, like I was talking about, you have your phone maybe, or your computer in front of you, then, those are the things that you focus on. You say, all right, I have a computer. That computer costs me money. And behind that computer is a wall, and that wall creates my room, and that room is part of my house, in which I also purchased. And that's this reality that we've lived in, and we have all these labels, all these names, and all these things that those things really are, but they're actually both inside and outside of this other reality, because this other reality is just kind of based off of your perspective. Alright, it's just like, alright, well, what's in front of me? Not only is it a computer and a wall or a bed, but it's a whole bunch of different colors. It's electronic, cells, or I don't know, like the exact key term for what is inside of your phone, or what is inside of your TV or computer or whatever you're looking at, but pixels basically. And what are each of those pixels made out of, And so this this other reality that you have the option to go into is kind of the absolute tiniest little molecules in the tiniest little cells of what you're looking at, because our mind places these symbols to these things, and it just says, all right, that's a computer, and it just says that's a wall, and it just says that's my girlfriend and that's my job. But that's not necessarily what they are, because what is your job? It's also your income, your source of income. It's also where you go to get friends. It's also where you go to have a source of relief from your family. It's also, a whole bunch of other things, just where your wife is not just your wife, and she's not just another person that you are in love with. She's also, uncalculable amounts of other things. And so that's what this other reality is, for the most part. It's the actual microscopic, in most tiny little details that each thing is. Alright, and so just by kind of guiding you to stop focusing on each and every single object and looking deeper into that object and seeing what it is you're really looking at, will give you the ability to have a little bit of a release from this reality and kind of look into the other reality that I'm talking about here. Alright, and so that should kind of put together the two parts I was talking about, but that's really what I wanted to talk about in this video, is the two different realities, alright? And so it's something that I'm just kind of coming to terms with, and that's why it's still kind of difficult for me to express, because, like I said, I took a really roundabout way into entering into this new reality of ours. It's like, I spent a whole lot of time just staying stuck in the lower vibrational earth. And, so, there's all kinds of things circling around the internet out there about a new earth and, all kinds of crazy things, just like the fifth dimension and just like all kinds of, absolutely mind-boggling things that like your mind can grasp and can imagine and get really attached to, because it seems possible and like it kind of matches up with holy texts and stuff, but there's really no proof, and they just become kind of like checkpoints that you're just sitting there and you're like, all right, well, when's the earth gonna split in two? It's like, it's not gonna happen. That's not what's happening. It's based from your perspective, from your point of view. The world literally will split in half. There will be one version of your world and another version of your world, and you get to pick which one you want to be in. And obviously the goal is to move into the new world, the new reality. Alright, and so I want to talk a little bit about what that new reality is. Alright, and what that new reality is just the unseen things. The same way there's more to your TV, and there's more to your wall, and there's more to your house, and there's more to your wife. There's more to you, and there's more to your heaven, and there's more to your earth than you could possibly imagine. Alright, like the things you've been told about heaven and the things you've been told about God, they're really not more than grazing the surface of what the words actually stand for, what they actually mean. Alright, and so since very few people, other than like Jesus Christ and like the Buddha and a couple of super insane scientists, possibly, don't quote me on this when you see them in heaven or anything, but maybe like Tesla or a couple of our presidents understood this other reality where there's infinite energy and there's all kinds of ridiculous things that would just solve all of our problems. Alright, and so basically that's one thing about that world, is that everything is perfect. Alright, it's like there's nobody there who tries to elevate themselves above other people. Equality is key, and the way you can see that actually unfolding in your life is when you master it on an internal level. Equality, when you treat evil people equal to you, then they're going to stop appearing so evil, and they're going to stop being mean to you. They're going to see that you actually care about them, unlike anybody they've ever met, and they're going to start treating you equally as well. And so as soon as you get that kind of thing of equality going for yourself, then it's going to start being attracted to you, the same frequency, the same energy. Other people are going to treat you the same way. All right. And that's like a really good look at what this other reality is. All right. It's something that you master internally, something that you do from your perspective. And then once it's completely mastered, then almost like a miracle, your whole external reality changes a little bit, and it changes this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece, until all of a sudden what you used to call reality is poof, gone, vanished, and you live in an entirely different world. I mean, these two worlds, they exist inside of each other, because although you may be living in this absolutely impeccable, miraculous state, there's always going to be someone else, maybe that lives just down the street, who still thinks he has to go to a job and stuff. And it's absolutely insane how magnificent and how extreme this universe is, how interconnected every single timeline and everything is. It's impossible for us to actually just like poof, disappear, gone, we're on a different planet. No, that other planet is being grounded onto this one slowly, for each and every single person, one at a time, until eventually the collective consciousness accepts it as a whole, and it becomes the reality that is dominant, that everybody believes in. All right. And so that's the end goal that most of us have in this spiritual community, is to create that world, to get every single living human to embrace that reality and experience it for themselves. And so that's what I want to do for you. That's why I'm making these videos. And yeah, it's like I had like kind of an idea of what I wanted to talk about when I started recording this video, but it just is so interesting to me how vast that reality is, that all kinds of different things are coming in and hitting me, probably just so that it makes more sense to you. But give me a second to kind of try and remember what it was I wanted to talk about, because hopefully it will still be relevant at least a little bit. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the pressure that other people put on you. As you are starting to see parts of this other reality being integrated into your life, there's always going to be somebody from the old-fashioned earth that says, that's impossible, that can't happen. And as far as the mind can conceive, they're completely and utterly right. It's impossible and it can't happen. So when you believe those people, then it's going to distance that reality from you. It's going to make it harder to find and harder to grasp and harder to hold on to. And you're going to find yourself falling back into the same lower vibrational earth that we've called home for the first, big part of our lives. And so yeah, just a little bit more about what this reality is about, so that you can, when you get confronted with these people, you can actually understand where they're coming from, why they're saying what they're saying, and have the faith to continue down your path, even though it completely doesn't make sense, and it's just a straight up leap of faith that maybe it does exist. And there's all kinds of people out there, and I'm becoming one of those people who can show to you, yes, it does actually exist. And so I have a kind of really awesome position in this whole thing where I kind of don't even believe in it myself, so it's really easy for me to relate with everybody from either reality, but at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, I'm trying to unite the two realities. It's not all about me getting to this one, it's kind of more about me showing this one to everybody else so that they can start heading for it, and maybe once they start heading for it, it'll be easier for me to reconcile going straight for it myself. But anyways, a little bit more about that reality is just that it consists of things like your soul. It consists of things like past lives and multi-dimensional timelines, and how every single choice has the ability to dramatically impact your future. Alright, and so, this is kind of what I was thinking about when I came into this video, is that our whole lives, we kind of thought of life as, at least from my point of view, we thought of life as a game. It was kind of just something that you were going to do. Eventually you were going to die. No matter how hard it was going to get, you were never actually just going to kill yourself. You were going to stick it out. You're going to try and master qualities of yourself, and you're going to try and have progression. Try to learn something from this life, no matter how difficult it is. So even back in that timeline, even back in that world, we kind of somewhat knew that there was more to life than just this single planet surrounded by stars that don't even seem to have any life on them. We knew there was more. Alright, but the other reality, although there is still all kinds of self-progression and all kinds of soul progression, it stops being so much of a game. It becomes real life. It becomes an actual thing. Every single choice that you make impacts your future, and not only does every single choice impact your future, but your future is like it's not set in stone. I mean, there's like it's really difficult to talk about, I'm sorry, but freaking let me just backtrack a little bit. So the future is not set in stone, and every single choice that you make impacts your future. And yeah, it's just like, no longer are you here for your own progression. No longer are you here to be an individual who's learning. Instead, you're part of the collective, and you are trying to take the new earth and you're trying to bring it down and share it with everybody else. Alright, you're not just here to learn about yourself, and you're not here just to learn how to love, and you're not here just to learn how to grow. You're here to show everybody else how to do those things. Alright, and so it's kind of like, taking that step to no longer just being a man, and instead being a your own creator. No longer are you just the victim of this world that was cast upon you, that you were cast into. Instead, you are the vessel. You're the owner of the vessel in which you are using this vessel to take aspects of the ultimate reality and share them with the people who can't even fathom that they're more than just whatever their name is, and that they have to go to work and job. Alright, and so definitely some of the key aspects to being able to do that is just knowing that there is more to life, that after you die, that's not the end, and that you do have a soul, and that soul is eternal, and that you are constantly growing. And the reason you came here is for a learning experience. It's to learn. It's to not only learn, but to also teach. And as you come to terms with that, you're going to start getting more exposed and opened up to that reality. You're going to start getting more intact with your intuition, and you're going to start understanding things that you shouldn't understand, that only make sense to you because it's something that you understood from your last life. And that's just your higher self integrating into yourself. And you know, it's a multi-step process to getting into this reality, but that's definitely one of the huge things, is stopping being your name, stopping being your labels and who everybody else says that you are, and just becoming that actual glorified, unexplainable being that we all know that we are. And as you do that, then you start becoming more open to understanding this secondary reality that is much bigger and much more unimaginable. Alright, and the last thing I want to talk about before I end off this video is just that reality is not something, I mentioned this earlier, but it's not something that is completely created yet. It's something that we are actually bringing into this timeline, that we're bringing into this earth, because our father and our mother and their father and their mother before them were not at all aware of this other thing. So although it had been there the whole time, as part of the human collective consciousness, we need to take this thing, this other reality, and share it with the world. And just by doing that, we're in a way creating it, because it's just like, again, it already existed, so we're not actually creating it. It was created by God, but it didn't exist to us before. It didn't exist to anybody else before, and it's something that's completely new to this entire reality, something that has never, entered into form before. It's not something that anybody, including probably extraterrestrials and such, have ever known about. And so, therefore, by taking the step to take that and bring it and share it with this reality, it's kind of creating it hand in hand with God, with the ultimate creator. So it's like, again, it's something that already existed, but since we have never seen it, it's kind of like we're discovering it for the first time. And anything that is discovered for the first time, is considered something that's being created. When we created a train, it's like, oh, yeah, this is a new form of transportation. Alright, or even that, for example, the idea of transportation, when somebody created a wheel and decided to put it under a carriage, they're like, oh, we've created transportation, but that's not what's happening. They're actually just rediscovering transportation for the first time in this reality. And so, in the same way, we're just rediscovering this absolutely enormous reality and taking it and kind of claiming it as our own. We're saying, yeah, this is our invention, we made this. And then everybody else here that doesn't believe us is kind of just like, it doesn't work. And then they see us all of a sudden riding down the street on our brand new carriage in perfect condition, and then they're like, huh, interesting, maybe we should buy one. And so then they start investing their time and energy into seeing this thing also, because they want the benefits of it, they want the rewards of it. And so that's what our job is as far as this new reality, as far as leaving the old reality and entering this new reality, is to first ground it within ourselves, to discover it in the first place, and after we discover it, to live by it. And just simply by living by it, we're kind of spreading the message. And you can obviously go above and beyond and try and share it with everybody else and expand on the awareness of those people who are already starting to discover it for themselves and speed up the process a little bit. And, it's just like, what I'm really trying to say is that life is much bigger than we've been led to believe it is. And I could get into how, we manifest our reality, and, just because the collective consciousness believes in one particular reality, that's the reality that we have, and as more people continue believing in this other reality, then that's the reality we'll have. But I don't really want to get into all that, because it's just like, it's already out there. It's probably things that you've already heard, and probably things that you either completely believe or just don't make any sense to you. And so I kind of want to go in between the black and white and be the gray area where you can just kind of experiment with what you think works for you and what does make sense, and you know, try to grasp it. And yeah, this video is getting really freaking long, but it's the first video besides the introduction, and so I wanted to really talk about what I've been thinking about today, and that's just that there's two entirely different realities, and you have to ground yourself in whichever one you want to stay in at this moment. But simply having awareness of the other one is already doing something to create it, alright? Alright, well, I have like a couple more hours of things that I want to say, but I guess I'll go ahead and save them for the next video. And yeah, hopefully you can get something out of this one, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next videos later on. Alright, peace out.